Hello and welcome back to Grow English Mastery. My name is Scarlett. In our last lesson, we reported the breaking news of the escalating conflict between Israel and Iran. We focused on the facts: what happened, when it happened, and who was involved. Today, we are going to go one step deeper. We are moving from the what to the why, and the what does it mean. This is the important skill of analysis. We will examine a specific perspective, an opinion piece from the publication Asia Times, which presents a very strong argument that Israel's recent attack on Iran is a carefully laid trap for the United States. Our main question for today's lesson is this: according to this analysis, how can a unilateral action by an allied nation create a dangerous and difficult situation for a superpower like the United States? This is a fantastic opportunity to learn the language of political analysis and opinion. By the end of our lesson, you will understand this complex argument. We will learn 10 new vocabulary words that are perfect for analysis, including unilateral, dilemma, and repercussions. Our grammar focus will be on the language of cause and effect, and on using modal verbs like might and could to talk about speculation and possibilities. This is an advanced topic, but we will break it down. Together, let's begin to analyze the news. First, let's quickly recap the events to set the stage for our analysis. On the morning of June 13th, Israel launched a major, unprecedented military operation, striking what it said were military and nuclear infrastructure, sites in Iran, including in the capital, Tehran. This was not a secret attack. It was openly acknowledged by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Within hours, Iran began its retaliation, launching drones and, later, waves of missiles towards Israel. This created a dangerous cycle of attack and counterattack, escalating tensions in the Middle East to a critical point. Now, let's dive into the analysis from the Asia Times. The central argument of the article is that this was a unilateral military move by Prime Minister Netanyahu. A unilateral action is something done by one country alone, without the agreement or coordination of its partners and allies. And according to this analysis, this unilateral move has created a trap for the United States, a situation that is very difficult to escape from. The article points out a great irony. Just a few months ago, U.S. President Donald Trump was strongly criticizing Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Mr. Trump argued that Zelensky's refusal to negotiate with Russia was extending the war in Europe and could lead to a wider conflict. Yet now, the analysis says, it is not Ukraine, but a key U.S. ally, Mr. Netanyahu, who has taken a military step that could drag Washington into a new conflict. A conflict the U.S. did not start and cannot easily control. So, why is this a trap for the U.S.? The analysis presents several key reasons. First, the United States has officially denied that it helped plan or coordinate the attack. However, as Israel's primary protector and main supplier of weapons, the U.S. will inevitably face the consequences. Second, the American public is very tired of wars in the Middle East after 2 long decades of conflict in Iraq and Afghanistan. There is very little public desire for another military intervention. And third, a crucial point in international politics. Perception is reality. If Washington is silent or does not strongly condemn the attack, its silence could be understood by the world as quiet approval or agreement. This puts the U.S. in a very difficult diplomatic position. The analysis also points to the powerful symbolism of the attack's timing. The first wave of attacks happened on a Friday, the holy day of prayer in the Muslim world. The author argues this was not just a military decision, but a symbolic act. It was an act that was almost guaranteed to cause a strong, emotional, and nationalistic reaction from Iran and other parts of the Muslim world, making a large-scale retaliation almost certain. To analyze these complex ideas, we need the right vocabulary. Let's learn 10 new words that are perfect for understanding political analysis and opinion pieces. Our first word is unilateral. Spelling: unilateral, unilateral. It is an adjective. A unilateral action is taken by only one person, group, or country involved in a situation, without the agreement of the others. For example, the analysis claims the attack was a unilateral decision by the Israeli Prime Minister. Another example, the company made a unilateral decision to change the working hours without consulting the employees. And one more. Unilateral disarmament means one country gives up its weapons, even if others do not. Our second word is repercussions. Spelling: repercussions. Repercussions. It is a noun, almost always used in the plural. Repercussions are the unintended and usually negative consequences of an action or event. For example, the attack will have serious economic and political repercussions around the world. Another example, he did not think about the repercussions of his actions. And one more, any decision you make will have repercussions. Our third word is dilemma. Spelling: dilemma, dilemma. It is a noun. A dilemma is a situation in which you have to make a very difficult choice between two or more options that are equally unpleasant. For example, President Trump now faces a difficult dilemma. Another example, I'm in a dilemma about whether to take the new job or to stay where I am. And one more, this is a moral dilemma with no easy answer. Our fourth word is speculation. Spelling: speculation, speculation. It is a noun. Speculation is the act of guessing possible answers to a question without having enough information to be certain. For example, there is a lot of speculation about the Prime Minister's motives. Another example, her resignation led to speculation that she was unhappy with the company. And one more. The newspapers are full of speculation about the election. Our fifth word is provocation. Spelling: provocation. Provocation. It is a noun. A provocation is an action or statement that is intended to make someone angry or to cause a reaction. For example, Iran viewed the attack on a holy day as a major provocation. Another example, he's a calm person and doesn't get angry without provocation. And one more. The soldiers were trained not to respond to provocation from the protesters. Our sixth word is gamble. Spelling, G-A-M-B-L-E, gamble. It is a noun. A gamble is a risky action that you take in the hope of a desired result. For example, the analysis suggests the attack is a dangerous political gamble for Mr. Netanyahu. Another example, starting a new business is always a bit of a gamble. And one more. He took a gamble by investing all his money in one company. Our seventh word is derail. Spelling, D-E-R-A-I-L, derail. It is a verb. To derail something means to cause a plan or a process to stop or fail. For example, the attack threatens to derail fragile diplomatic efforts in the region. Another example, a lack of funding could derail the entire project. And one more, the scandal. Derailed his political career. Our eighth word is volatile. Spelling, V-O-L-A-T-I-L-E, volatile. It is an adjective. A volatile situation is one that is likely to change suddenly and unexpectedly, especially by becoming worse. For example, the Middle East is a very volatile region of the world. Another example, the stock market has been very volatile this year. And one more, he has a volatile temper, so you never know how he will react. Our ninth word is protagonist. Spelling, P-R-O-T-A-G-O-N-I-S-T, protagonist. It is a noun. The protagonist is the main character in a story, play, or film. We can also use it to describe the main person or country in a real-life situation. For example, in this geopolitical drama, both the U.S. and Israel are key protagonists. Another example. The protagonist of the novel is a young girl growing up in London. Our final word is allegedly. Spelling, A-L-L-E-G-E-D-L-Y, allegedly. It is an adverb. We use allegedly to say that something is claimed to be true, but it has not been proven. It is often used in news reporting. For example, the attack was allegedly carried out without coordination with the U.S. Another example, he was allegedly seen leaving the building just before the fire started. These words are the building blocks of political analysis. Now, let's look at the grammar we need to connect actions to their consequences and to speculate about motives and future events. When we analyze a situation, we are constantly trying to understand the relationship between actions and their results. The first part of our grammar focus is on the language of cause and effect. To show a cause, we can use phrases like because, of, or due to, followed by a noun. For example, because of the attack, oil prices have risen sharply. The diplomatic progress has stopped due to the new conflict. To show an effect or consequence, we can use phrases like as a result, therefore, or verbs like leads to or causes. For example, Israel took unilateral action. As a result, the U.S. is now in a difficult position. The attack was a provocation. Therefore, a retaliation was almost certain. This kind of conflict leads to economic instability. The timing of the attack caused an angry reaction. The second part of our grammar focus is on modal verbs for speculation. When we analyze someone's motives, we can't know for sure what they are thinking, so we speculate. We use modal verbs like might, may, and could to show that we are guessing, not stating a fact. For example, the analysis suggests Netanyahu might believe this attack will make him look strong. The author argues that this could be a dangerous gamble. This crisis may become even worse in the coming days. Using these modal verbs is very important for analysis because it shows you are thinking critically and not just accepting something as a simple fact. Let's use this language to look at the global consequences of the attack, as described in the Asia Times article. These consequences are often called ripple effects, like when you throw a stone in a lake and the small waves or ripples spread out very far. The first and most immediate consequence was economic. As a result of the attack, the price of Brent crude oil jumped by more than 10%. The article argues that this leads to immediate inflationary pressure for countries in Southeast Asia that import a lot of oil, like Malaysia, Indonesia, and the Philippines. This means the price of everything could go up in those countries. This also puts more pressure on global supply chains, which are already weak because of Mr. Trump's new tariff policies. The second consequence is diplomatic. The analysis argues that the attack threatens to derail fragile but promising diplomatic efforts. It mentions a recent ASEAN-GCC China summit, which was an effort to bring countries from Southeast Asia, the Arab Gulf, and East Asia together to focus on economic cooperation and cultural exchange. The article uses a very powerful sentence to summarize the impact. Civilized diplomacy cannot flourish amid a volley of missiles. It says that rebuilding trust is much harder than destroying it. Now, let's use our speculative language to analyze the possible domestic motives behind the attack. Why might Prime Minister Netanyahu have taken this action? The article suggests we need to look at his political situation inside Israel. It says that he has been politically besieged for a long time. This means he has been surrounded by problems, including corruption trials, large public protests against his government, and pressure from his coalition partners. So, the analysis presents a theory. It suggests that by attacking Iran, Mr. Netanyahu might hope to achieve several things. He could be trying to rally the country together against a common enemy. He may be trying to distract public attention from his problems at home. And he might want to present himself as the ultimate defender of Israel. However, the article immediately points out that this is a dangerous gamble. It's risky because it could backfire. If Iran's retaliation becomes more severe or widespread, the political divisions inside Israel could actually get deeper, especially because the trauma from the Hamas attack of October 7, 2023, is still very fresh. The author notes that recent polls in Israel show growing frustration with Mr. Netanyahu's leadership. So, an attempt to look strong could ultimately make him look reckless and weaken his position. This brings us to the final part of the analysis, the path forward and President Trump's difficult choice. The Asia Times article argues that the situation requires urgent diplomacy. It suggests that the U.S., working with partners like Turkey and Qatar, must establish secret communication channels with Tehran to de-escalate the crisis. It also argues that Israel must be told firmly that further escalation is not in anyone's strategic interest. This places President Trump in his dilemma. If U.S. forces in the region are attacked by Iran, as Iran has threatened, he will be forced to choose. He would have to choose between a military response, which would break his promise of no more wars, and political restraint, which his opponents might criticize as being weak. The article concludes with a powerful thought. It suggests that great powers are often judged not by how they start wars, but by how they prevent them. Mr. Netanyahu's attack, the author says, has lit the match. Now the world is waiting to see if others can stop the fire from reaching the gunpowder. Let's summarize our lesson. Today we went beyond the headlines to analyze a political opinion piece on the Israel-Iran conflict. We explored the argument that this unilateral action is a trap for the U.S. We looked at the potential motives and the serious global repercussions. We learned 10 new words for political analysis, like unilateral, dilemma, and repercussions. And we practiced using the language of cause and effect, as well as modal verbs for speculation. Analyzing an opinion piece is a very high-level skill in any language. It requires you to understand not just what is happening, but what people think about what is happening, and why. You have done a fantastic job today engaging with these complex ideas. This analysis from the Asia Times presents one strong and critical perspective. What do you think? In such a volatile situation, is diplomacy still possible, or is a wider conflict inevitable? Please share your thoughts respectfully in the comments below. If you appreciated this deep dive analysis and it helped you learn the language of opinion and debate, please give this video a like, subscribe to Grow English Mastery, and share it with a friend who loves to think critically. I'm Scarlett. Thank you for joining me for this important lesson today. Stay informed and stay safe. I will see you next time.